The Week 2 review episode of the Bears Talk Underground is brought to you by MyBookie. Remember, guys, who you're betting on is just as important as who you're betting with. That's why I'm urging you to make your way to MyBookie. You win, they pay. They have in-game live betting, over-unders on fantasy points scored, and the most rewarding player perks in the business. MyBookie is slammed right now with new bettors and wants to give everyone the best possible service. If you're willing to make a deposit after 7 p.m. Eastern time, they will give you an additional $25 in free play on deposits over $100. Join now and MyBookie will match your deposit dollar for dollar. Use the promo code BEARS25. New promo code, guys, BEARS25 to activate the offer. Visit MyBookie online today. That's MyBookie, MyBookie. And don't forget to use the promo code BEARS25 when creating your account to claim up to $1,000 in free play. If you're willing to hold out until after 7 p.m., you can get that extra $25 in free play by using the promo code BEARS25. It's up to you guys, but I'd wait until after dinner and take the extra money. MyBookie, you play, you win, you get paid. This week on the Bears Talk Underground, under the lights at Soldier Field, with a national TV crowd watching for the second straight week, our beloved opened their home schedule against Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks, intent on rebounding from their loss to Green Bay and getting Coach Nagy his first win as head coach. Did the Bears deliver, or are we still searching for our first win? All of this plus bear up and bear down on the Week 2 review episode of the Bears Talk Underground.
Hang up the telephone, I hear the dial tone, ringing out loud and I don't.
Welcome, boys and girls, to the very first victory episode of the Bears Talk Underground era. What's going on, everybody? Larry D back for the Week 2 review episode of the Bears Talk Underground, and it was it was kind of a stressful evening last night, wasn't it? Trying to navigate the muddy waters that is the Jekyll and Hyde team of our beloved Chicago Bears, where 1 minute we can look so dominant, like we could play with anybody, beat anybody, and make it look easy, to all of a sudden struggling to keep pace with a team that is struggling itself. I mean, last night was a testament to the two sides of the Chicago Bears, and it was interesting to watch. I mean, the Bears, for lack of a better term, were in control for the entire football game last night. You know, the defense was staggeringly awesome last night. I mean, it was something to behold to watch the defense repeat their first half performance from Green Bay again for basically the entire 60 minutes against the Seattle Seahawks. And, you know, then there was the offense that for the second week in a row took the opening drive right down the field, 96 yards on 9 plays, I think it was, with a little help from Seattle with some stupid penalties on their part. The Bears didn't earn it all on their own, but we'll take every inch that our opponents will give us. But in the end, we put the punctuation mark on it, the exclamation point, if you will, with a shovel pass from Trubisky to Trey Burton for the touchdown, putting the Bears up 7-0 early. And then we're off to the races because Russell Wilson and company had nothing. Deep into the fourth quarter, they had 80 yards of total offense. I mean, they scored 2 touchdowns in that fourth quarter. The first one was like basically the only legit touchdown they scored in the quarter, because that was the one where it was Seattle that moved the football down the field, moved the chains, and then Russell Wilson, showing why he is considered an elite quarterback, hitting Tyler Lockett with that dime in the corner of the end zone on Kyle Fuller. What is it with this guy in the corner of the end zone? It's not a safe area for us Bears. For the Bears, man, it's terrible. I mean, he gets smoked by a dude named Geronimo, then he gets beat by Tyler Lockett in the corner. So I don't know. We got to work on that with Kyle Fuller. Protect the corner of the end zone, brother. They're going for it there. But that was the one touchdown that they got that was legitimate in my opinion. The last one that they got to make the final score 24-17, even though the game was never that close. was more on the Bears and the fact they were playing a prevent defense. Basically, they were giving up yards, trying to keep everything in front of them, ended up giving a touchdown there at the very end with about 14, 15 seconds left in the ball game. Basically, a touchdown did not affect the outcome. But, so on paper, or at least you look at the box score, you see, the Seahawks scored 14 points in the fourth quarter. They tried to surge late or anything like that, but anybody who watched that full 60 minutes would know that even though the score was 24-17, the deficit was only 7. The game was never that close. The defense was murderous last night. It was really something to see. I mean, and again, for the second week in a row, the first half performance was better than the second, and actually you could kind of argue that they were about the same. I mean, we definitely got after Wilson a lot better in the first half. 5 sacks in the first half, only 1 in the second, but we got 2 turnovers out of the Seahawks in the second half, including a pick 6 from Prince Amukamara, a second strip. We had 2 strip sacks on Wilson last night, one by Khalil Mack, the other one by Danny Trevathan, and that second one was basically the killer. Even though the Amukamara's touchdown was the dagger, getting that strip sack on Wilson was really what put the bow on the whole thing. That was really like the nail in the coffin. I mean, I tweeted out at one point when the Bears went up 17-3 with the way that the defense was playing, that 14-point lead might as well be 140 points because the Seahawks will never be able to close the gap, And aside from that garbage touchdown there at the very end, when the Bears were in full prevent mode, I was pretty much right on that one. So, but nonetheless, it's a win. The Bears are off the schneid. We win our home opener, and ironically, Matt Nagy has as many wins against NFC teams in the second game of the season that John Fox had all of last year. So yeah, tip of the cap to Nagy on winning one football game. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? Because we were a perfect 4-0 against the AFC North last year. We are the defending 2017 AFC North Division champions. We beat everybody in that division, but we went 1-11 against the NFC. Our lone victory coming in that bananas Eddie Jackson game against Carolina last year, which didn't happen until week 7 last season. But so yeah, Nagy's already tied John Fox for NFC victories from 2017. So if he wins again this Sunday against the Cardinals, then he will have doubled John Fox's NFC win total from 2017. So something to shoot for there. So anyway, we got knee-jerk reactions. We got bear up and bear down, so we say we get to it. Starting with the first quarter knee-jerk reaction, and the Bears were impressive in the first quarter, and it kind of felt familiar as far as driving the length of the field, being abusive to Russell Wilson there in the first quarter, but a little bit more of a guarded optimism this time around after getting smoked last Sunday.
Knee-jerk reaction to the first quarter of the Bears and the Seahawks on Monday Night Football, and it's going pretty good so far. I don't want to be overly optimistic because that got us all into a lot of trouble last week. It's a guarded optimism, if you will. However, it's been, and stop me if this sounds familiar, all Bears up to this point. The Seahawks have had only 2 drives thus far in the first quarter. Both ended in punts. The first one, the Seahawks put together a couple of first downs on the first drive, and Michael Dixon, the punter that our good friend Spike Friedman couldn't stop talking about, punted the Bears inside the 5-yard line. But thanks to a couple of Seahawk penalties and some awesome play from our offense, the Bears were able to go 96 yards and put it in the end zone to give us a 7-0 lead to start the football game, and that's where we are right now. The Bears are in the midst of their second offensive drive of the game. They're earning this one a lot more than they did the first one. I think the Seahawks had at least 3 penalties that helped the Bears advance the ball in that first drive. The Bears are earning this one all on their own this time around, doing a good mixture of running and passing on this drive. Missed a wide open Taylor Gabriel down the seam on a play action. Just launched it about a foot over Gabriel's head. If he catches it, with his speed and everything, who knows what happens. The Bears would, at the very least, be deep in Seattle territory right now. But as it stands, we're in Seattle territory, but I think we're at somewhere in the 35, 40-yard line area. If we broke the 50 already, but we're in enemy territory. We have the football. It's going to be 3rd and short. Let's see where we go. Bears are up 7-0 after 1.
And there you have it. Like I said, all Bears. I even said the words guarded optimism and then a knee-jerk reaction. That's very much how you want it to feel. Because a week ago at this time, it was just, edge of my seat. I can't believe how well this is going. We're getting after Aaron Rodgers. The offense marched down the field on the first drive. Can you believe this? They are who we thought they were, the whole Denny Green thing and whatnot. And it was exciting. It was very exciting. And then to watch the Bears come out against Russell Wilson and the Seahawks and do it again. March down the field, making some really good plays. Trubisky looks sharp. We're moving the football. We're getting the lucky breaks like we got last week against Green Bay, extending drives, the foolish penalties that usually go against us. We're now going for us. We finished the drive, put it in the end zone. Boom, just like that. We're up 7-0. And then the defense just eating Russell Wilson and the rest of the Seahawk offense alive out there. Maybe they get a first down or two, but in the end, the defense just becomes an iron wall, and you cannot get past it. So, but you heard me mention there on that second drive, Trubisky had Gabriel. Why? I mean, there was nobody within 10 yards of him at least on that one throw, and he just launched it about a yard or so over his head. He just put too much on it. And it wasn't the first throw like that, actually. On the touchdown drive, he had Jordan Howard wide open in the flat and threw the football way too high over his head. And, it wasn't a pretty first half for Trubisky. After the first quarter, the opening drive, much like the Green Bay game, things started to unravel a little bit as far as Trubisky, his accuracy, and in some cases his decision-making. You hear me talk about it in the second quarter knee-jerk reaction, whereas, there was no laughter. There were no boo birds that made me laugh out loud like it was a week ago. We were only up 10-3, and with the way our defense was playing, we should have been up way more than that.
Knee-jerk reaction, the second quarter, the Bears and the Seahawks. And it's been a very teeth-gnashing type of second quarter. Mitch Trubisky's thrown 2 interceptions. He's been terrible thus far tonight. He looked decent on that first drive. The Bears scored on the first drive. Then after that, it's basically the same as the Green Bay game. It's like after the first drive of the game, the first couple of drives against Green Bay, he reverted back to being a rookie and looking inexperienced and what have you. And it's just been frustrating to watch. He threw 2 interceptions. One was a batted ball, not necessarily his fault. One, he tried to go deep down the sideline to Robinson, and he threw it short. And he almost threw a third on the Bears' last drive where they had to settle for a field goal, where Trubisky tried to fit it into a space. There were 3 defenders there. If the first guy doesn't drop the ball, it goes through his hands to the second guy. It would have hit him right between the numbers. So, Trubisky is not throwing well at all. And the funny thing is his stats aren't that bad. 13 of 20, 112 yards, the touchdown and the 2 picks. And, he also killed a drive earlier in the second quarter. It was like a 3rd and 3, and the Bears did an option play, and Trubisky has the first down if he just runs straight ahead. But instead, for some reason, it's like he was going to run upfield and then decided to try to cut it around the end or whatever, ends up getting stopped about 2 yards short, when basically if he'd have just kept his head and just gone straight down the field, it's a first down, the chains keep moving and everything. So, Trubisky's some bad throws, some bad decisions in the second quarter, and hopefully the Bears can get that cleaned up in the second half, because despite the fact that the defense has been balling in the first half. 5 sacks on Russell Wilson so far, and he's been under pressure all night long. It's only a 10-3 ball game right now. The Seahawks, Janikowski, apparently the ageless wonder, a 56-yard field goal as time expires at the end of the first half to make it 10-3. with 5 sacks, winning the time of possession battle, and everything, the Bears should be ahead at least 21-3 at this point. But the Bears can't finish on offense. And, if I'm worried we're going to see a repeat of last Sunday, where the offense can't keep the defense off the field, and eventually Russell Wilson and his ability to move around in the pocket and extend plays is going to wear this defense down and cost us the football game. So dominant performance by the Bears thus far, but I'm nervous going into the second half because I'm not liking what I'm seeing from our offense.
So the difference between this week and last week was that we didn't have that pick six from Khalil Mack to put the cherry on top just before the half. So we were flying high, even though the second quarter offense wasn't impressive at all. As a matter of fact, you heard me mention the word terrible when describing Trubisky's performance in the second quarter. I should say. I mean, it was a bit shaky the rest of the first quarter after that first drive, and then missing the throw to Jordan Howard, missing that throw to Gabriel. Honestly, I think if you go back and have a look at that play, but I think it could have been a touchdown because it would have been Gabriel in the open field. He would have had a blocker downfield with him, and then one other guy to beat. It either gets down deep inside the 10, or it is a touchdown if Gabriel can make a guy miss. I mean, that's how wide open he was, or at least that's how perfect the call was, and Trubisky just flat out missed the throw. And then the 2 interceptions, you heard me talk about those. The first one, it was a batted ball. It flew right up into the air. Shaquem Griffin, or was it Shaquille? Shaquille Griffin is the cornerback. He, dives underneath, makes a good play on it. And it was just an outstanding effort. It was a batted ball and a great effort from the defender. Not really a whole lot you can do about that. Batted balls happen. They just happen. But the second one, that was all Trubisky. He forced the throw down the sideline. And the thing was, it was there. Robinson had a step on Griffin. Same guy, 2 picks in the same quarter, but he just shorted it. He just shorted the pass. It was underthrown, and Robinson, and that was the thing was you think that the 6'3" Robinson would have an advantage over the 5'8", 5'9" cornerback, but it was shorted. So Robinson didn't have a chance to come back for it because he had at least a step or so on Griffin. If he catches the ball, it's a touchdown. So you can see why Trubisky made that decision. He just made a bad throw, and he shorted the pass and ended up being an interception, going back the other way for the Seahawks. So, the second quarter was not good, and like I said, it left that sour taste in your mouth because the defense was playing lights out. I mean, how many times did we have this conversation last year when we didn't have Khalil Mack, when it was, Akeem Hicks and Eddie Goldman, Leonard Floyd, Danny Trevathan just out there flat out getting it done and putting a cap on these on our opponents. Adrian Amos with the interceptions last year, and Eddie Jackson in the Carolina game and all that kind of stuff. Just wondering, because our offense was 3 and out and kept giving the football back, how long is it going to be before this defense wears out and instead of bending starts breaking? And you were just kind of wondering, with as dominant as the Bears had been, especially on the defensive side, 5 sacks, the strip sack that Mack got wasn't a turnover. The Seahawks were able to recover that one, but it's just everything was going Chicago's way on the defensive side. They played prevent defense and gave up enough yardage for Seattle to attempt a 56-yard field goal. There's only about a handful of kickers who can manage 56 yards, and Janikowski just happens to be one of them. But even still, though, as dominant as the Bears were, as little as the Seahawks were able to generate there in the first half, it's a 1-score game at the break, and that's what kind of had you nervous, was that it's only going to take 1 score. And just think about the conversation that we had with Spike Friedman was, you look at the stat sheets and you're wondering how it is that the Broncos didn't win by 30 points. Russell Wilson threw 3 interceptions. He got sacked 6 times. The Broncos have won the time of possession battle by almost an entire quarter, 10 full minutes of time of possession. They beat the Seahawks by last week, and yet they only won by a field goal. And what did we deduce what that was? was the big plays that the Seahawks were able to generate. A 66-yarder to that tight end, Wilsley, last week. A 51-yarder to Tyler Lockett. The touchdown pass to Brandon Marshall was about a 30-plus yard pass last week. It wasn't like the Seahawks were generating offense, moving the chains, and then running it in from 2 yards out. Without those big plays, Denver wins the game easily last week. And that's what we were talking about, the Bears being vulnerable after the second half that we saw a week ago. Rodgers with 3 big plays in the fourth quarter to generate the points that they needed to win that football game. And at this point in the game, all that Russell Wilson needed was 1 to be tied. For basically it to be 0-0 all over again, Russell Wilson just needed 1 big play to draw them even, and then it's anybody's ball game after that. So that's the feeling that you had in the pit of your stomach, like this thing could still get away from us. The defense could look like they could murder anybody out on the field, and we could still lose this thing because our offense can't match. And now, granted, the defense was setting a very high bar, but all the offense needs to do is come close. With the way our defense is playing in these first 2 games, we only need about 17 points to win a football game. I mean, that's just fact. We won't need many points. We won't need many points to win football games if our defense can keep this up throughout the year. We'll win 14-10 ball games if we have to, And I understand this is a growing process for everybody. You got a lot of new guys. Like basically anybody that's anyone as far as skill position is new to the team. Not only are they new to the team, they're new to each other. They're new to this offensive system. We got a brand new head coach running a football team for the first time, calling the plays, not calling plays for the first time, but calling plays for these players for the first time. There is going to be a learning curve. But we as Bear fans, we're in year 6 without Lovie Smith, and we haven't come close to the record that got him fired, which is 10-6. We want results, we want wins, and we want them now. It's like I said, Jekyll and I want to say Heckle and Hyde for some reason. That's why it keeps coming out funny. Jekyll and Hyde. That's what we Bear fans are as well. We're Jekyll and Hyde. We understand that this is a building process. We understand that this is a learning process and that it's still very early in the season. But on the other hand, we're like, screw that. We've waited long enough. The defense is playing lights out. The offense needs to catch up and do it now and win us some goddamn football games. So that's the feeling that you have in the second quarter. And unfortunately for my blood pressure, the third quarter wasn't much better as far as the Bears putting together a drive that gave us points to extend the lead, because after 3 quarters, the defense is still being dominant. They haven't allowed 100 yards in total offense yet, but it's still only a 10-3 ball game.
Knee-jerk reaction to the Bears and the Seahawks after 3 quarters. The Bears still lead at 10-3. The Bears are still dominating. Russell Wilson and the offense of the Seahawks can do nothing. I mean, nothing. I don't know if they've added another sack, but they've definitely. I don't think that the Seahawks have cracked 100 yards in total offense thus far, and we're headed into the final frame here. The Bears' offense sputtering to start the third quarter. Looks like they've got somewhat of the rhythm going here on this current drive. The last play was a jet sweep to Taylor Gabriel. Got the ball down to about the 15-yard line or so. So the Bears are in the red zone, and they're threatening. And at this point, with the way the defense is playing, I want a touchdown, but if we make this a 2-score game, that could put this thing completely out of reach for Seattle with the way that the defense has been handling Wilson and company. And the one great thing that the offense has done in this quarter is that they haven't been 3 and out. I think maybe 1 3 and out the whole second half thus far. But every one of their drives, they've gotten at least 1 first down, so the defense isn't running right back out there. So they're not going to be worn out like they were a week ago in Green Bay. But here we are. The offense is threatening. Let's see if we can put it out of reach, leading 10-3 going into the fourth quarter.
So again, still a little nervous about the lack of points coming from the offense. Still feeling good about the way the defense is playing. And as you heard me mention there, right there at the end, the one good thing that the offense did in this football game that they didn't do a week ago, especially in that third quarter, was that they kept themselves out on the field for a little while. They did get one first down, maybe a second first down, that kind of thing before the drive sputtered out and they had to give the football back. They weren't just going 3 and out, throwing 3 passes, running 6 seconds off the clock, and then, giving the ball back to the Seahawks. They were managing to hang on to the ball for a little bit before having to turn it over. And then that last drive that they were on at the end of the third quarter became the touchdown to start the fourth quarter. 4 touchdowns scored between the two teams in the final 15 minutes, but it was the 2 that the Bears scored that counted. Obviously, we had a touchdown to Anthony Miller, a very nice-looking play, a great throw from Trubisky to put it in the right spot for the rookie, who got the first of his promised 8 touchdowns of his rookie season. So hopefully he'll be able to make good on the other 7 as we go along here. And then the second one was all fireworks. Prince Amukamara was able to generate a pick 6, picked off Wilson, ran it back 49 yards for the touchdown. And that was it. That was the end of the ball game right there. And then the Bears were able to carry the momentum in the fourth quarter to continue the dominance of the Seahawks and close the game out.
Knee-jerk reaction to the fourth quarter of the Bears and the Seahawks. 2 turnovers generated by the defense, one being the dagger for the Bears, a 49-yard pick 6 for Prince Amukamara that put the Bears up 24-10. The Seahawks add a late touchdown with about 20 seconds to go, make it 24-17, and that's your final. The Bears kneeling on it now to make it a 24-17 final and a victory for our beloved Chicago Bears. The defense was outstanding. Aside from those 2 late touchdowns in the fourth quarter, both of them came when the Bears had 14-point leads. So it was an outstanding effort from the defense. Russell Wilson, he's a great quarterback on a mediocre team right now. He's the only offense that they had throughout the football game. We got him 6 times tonight, 5 in the first half alone, and then that second turnover was a strip sack by Danny Trevathan, recovered by Leonard Floyd, and that basically was it right there. So, I mean, the Bears awesome on defense. Looking forward to seeing what this defense can do against an offense in Arizona that has generated 6 points total in their first 2 games. They were 6 points against the Redskins week 1, shutout last week against the Rams. I'm practically salivating after this performance from our defense. A lot closer to a 60-minute performance than what we saw last week against Green Bay. Can't wait to see what they'll be able to do against statistically the worst offense in football next week in Arizona. But the Bears pull it off. They win the home opener, get Matt Nagy his first win as Bears head coach, move to 1-1, avoid an 0-2 hole for the 4th year in a row. The arrow's pointing up. We just need the offense to play on the level with defense, and we'll have something special here.
And there you have it. Our beloved finish out the fourth quarter strong. The offense puts one on the board, and for the second week in a row, the defense putting points on the board as well. Prince Amukamara, his first interception, his first interception as a Chicago Bear. I think they said it was his first pick in 3 years since he was with the Giants, because he spent a year in Jacksonville before coming to Chicago last season. Got a goose egg as far as interceptions a year ago, and he said this was his first pick 6 as a pro. So, I mean, milestones all around for Prince Amukamara last night to kind of put the perfect punctuation on the defensive performance last night. I mean, it really was amazing to watch. And I was talking with a friend of mine earlier today about the defense and talking about how Khalil Mack was such a beast. And I told him, I was like, as wonderful as it is to have Mack on the team, it's this defense was supposed to be good without him. We had everybody coming back from last year, or everybody that contributed, outside of the the injured guys like McPhee and Willie Young and whatnot that we got rid of in the offseason. Still wish we'd have held on to Willie Young. But anyway, nonetheless, what the thing that's so great is that Khalil Mack was a one-man wrecking machine in Oakland because he had to be. Maybe aside from Bruce Irvin, there really wasn't anybody else on that defensive side that was special, that was making plays for the Raiders and helping them win football games. Khalil Mack was basically doing it all on his own because he had to. And Khalil Mack does not have to do that here in Chicago. He has Akeem Hicks. He has Eddie Goldman. He has Leonard Floyd. And somebody, Mr. Sandy Vagina himself, Aaron Lynch, was making some plays yesterday. I couldn't believe it. Mukamura is playing well. Kyle Fuller, Jerry's still out on him this year. He's not, as far as getting noticed, Kyle Fuller not doing that great of a job up to this point. But, we have Trevathan. Roquan Smith made his first start last night. And then, of course, on the back end, we got Adrian Amos and Eddie Jackson. We got some killers back there. Mack is not the only star on defense. He's just the biggest one at this point. And the impact that he's having is that he is the kind of guy, like he is, I hate to rub salt in the wound, but he's an Aaron Rodgers type player where he makes everyone else around him better. Because you saw what happened to Green Bay when we knocked him out for that point in the second quarter. DeShone Kizer was awful, and we were able to take advantage of that to the tune of a pick six for Khalil Mack and putting points on the board and sacking the quarterback a couple of more times. The 2 turnovers we generated against Green Bay last week were when DeShone Kizer was on the field, and Khalil Mack was responsible for both of them. This week, the Bears generated 6 sacks. Khalil Mack only had 1. He just had the 1 strip sack on Russell Wilson, and we didn't even get the ball out of that one. We just ended up getting the sack on Wilson when he recovered the football. I mean, we had 5 sacks that Khalil Mack was not responsible for, but in a way he was responsible for. It's kind of like when I was gushing over Julius Peppers. When he first joined the team, he was doing so many things that you'll never see on a stat sheet, affecting everybody else around him, making things easier for Urlacher and Briggs to make tackles, for Tommy Harris and all those guys up front to be making plays and everything. Julius Peppers was grabbing attention so that other guys were free to do things. Danny Trevathan was our leading sacker last night. He had 2 in the ball game. So Eddie Goldman got a sack, almost sacked Russell Wilson for a safety last night. Why? Because Khalil Mack collapsed that pocket on the right side, forced Russell Wilson to kind of step up into the pocket, into the loving arms of Eddie Goldman for a sack that put them inside their own 1-yard line. That's the impact that Khalil Mack is having. He's having the kind of impact that Peppers was having when he first joined the team back in 2010, an impact that doesn't necessarily get spotted on the stat sheet, but he is making a good defense so much better because of his presence. And I think that he's flying around the way that he is, playing with the speed and ferocity that he is right now, because he knows he doesn't have to do it by himself. If he can't make the play, Akeem Hicks can do it. Leonard Floyd can do it. Aaron Lynch can do it. Eddie Goldman can do it. Roy Robinson Harris can do it. And then, of course, and those are just the guys up front. We're not even talking about Roquan and Trevathan and Adrian Amos and Eddie Jackson behind him. We got some studs on the defensive side. This defense was going to be good without Khalil Mack. It's going to be special now that he's a part of it, and we got dude locked up for the next 6 seasons. So, there's going to be happy days ahead with Mack. The guy is a flat-out beast, and he's got friends around him this time. He's not just doing it on his own like he was in Oakland. And even with nobody around him, the guy still won Defensive Player of the Year in 2016. Imagine what he can do with this cast of characters, just making his life a whole lot easier. So it's amazing, and it makes you, it makes you moist to think about it, to be honest with you. I mean, just think about, like you heard me mention at the end of the knee-jerk reaction there, just think about what this defense, has done to the Packers and the Seahawks, and they have Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. Imagine what we're going to be able to do next week, knock on wood, against Sam Bradford, or even better, Josh Rosen and the Arizona Cardinals next week. Okay? Rosen, I think, is going to be a good quarterback in this league. Sam Bradford has proven time and time again he's okay. But, definitely not great. And this is going to be a hungry Bear defense that he's facing. And you heard me mention it during the knee-jerk reaction there. This is an offense that has generated 6 points, and that was one garbage touchdown at the end of the football game against the Redskins. And so they've scored 1 touchdown, 0 field goals, and what have you. In 8 quarters of football, they've scored 6 points, and they have to face the Bears on Sunday. Granted, they're facing the Bears on Sunday in their own home stadium, but I'm not liking it. I mean, it's all we need is the offense to make some plays next week because, with the and I know this is silly to keep talking about it like this, but 14 points is all we'll need next week against the Cardinals. They're that bad on offense up to this point. It's just they're not a good football team on offense at all. So I mean, and then they got smoked by the Rams 34-0 on Sunday, 24-6 a week ago against the Redskins. You hate to say things in absolute terms, especially when you're talking about the Bears, because they have this innate ability to win the games they should lose and lose the games they should win. So I mean, this is a perfect game for the Bears to fall flat on their faces. But I just don't think that's going to happen. I really do think that those days may be behind us, and that we're going to make some. It's going to be a fun afternoon on Sunday when the Bears play against the Cardinals. So, and gearing up to what could be an exciting game, Week 4 against the Bucs, because when we had our good friend Ren Dax on the show during the summer previewing the season, we're like, look at this. We got New Orleans, we got Philadelphia, we got Pittsburgh for the first 3 games. It is very possible that the Buccaneers can be 0-3 when they come to Chicago to play the Bears. Very, very possible. And now with the way that offense is playing and with the way that the Steelers are coming apart at the seams right now, they get they if it wasn't for the Cleveland kicker forgetting that the ball goes between the uprights instead of on outside of them, they lose Week 1 in overtime to the Browns, and then they got beat up this past week by the Chiefs. They're basically an 0-2 football team. They're 0-1 right now. And Antonio Brown doesn't show up for work yesterday, talking on Twitter like a fan is talking trash about how he'd never make those plays and get those numbers without the Steelers. His answer was, trade me and let's find out. And, of course, the whole Le'Veon Bell mess that's going on there. I mean, as talented a team as the Steelers appear to be on paper, I think that there's something going on in that locker room that's going to sink the team this year unless Mike Tomlin can really get it under control. But, right now it's looking good for Tampa Bay, who's playing on Monday night against the Steelers next week, to be coming into Soldier Field with a 3-0 record. I mean, it could be a 3-0 team that comes in on Sunday that we thought in May at the beginning of end of May, beginning of June, when we talked to Ren, it was very possible that we could be looking at an 0-3 team, heading into Soldier Field Week 4. So, I mean, it really could be a 3-0 versus 2-1 matchup that, two teams kind of coming out of nowhere that could have something to say about it when December rolls around. So that could be a very interesting game. And that's, of course, after we get done trouncing the Cardinals this weekend, which I fully expect our beloved to do. So there you have it. That is the Week 2 review for the Bears and the Seahawks. The Bears improved to 1-1, avoiding a 0-2 hole for the 4th year in a row. So that's awesome. And or avoid having an 0-2 hole for the 4th year in a row. So that is awesome that the Bears don't have to endure that we got the W. We should be 2-0, God damn it, but we're not. We'll get there one of these days. We'll get there. And, we're looking forward to the Cardinals now. And it's a short week. We're a day short on preparation for this game because we played on Monday night, but I think we're going to be okay. The one really great thing that's not happening so far is, knock on wood, injuries. We're pretty much coming out of these games scot-free. I think guys are experiencing some soreness in practice like Kyle Long didn't practice until Saturday with ankle soreness, and the only person with a bad injury at this point was DeAndre Houston Carson, and that was from the broken forearm that he suffered in the preseason. So he's still recovering from that. Everybody else is, maybe some soreness here or a bruise there. My knee's sore, my hamstring is tight, that kind of thing. Nothing major up to this point. Now, granted, we still got 14 games left to go, and a lot can happen in that time. But, fortune seems to be changing as far as injuries are concerned, up to this point, I should say. But there you have it. We got the victory over the Seahawks, 24-17. And that'll close the book on our Week 2 review. What do you say we go ahead and cap this bad boy off with everybody's favorite segment, Bear Up and Bear Down. And before we get to Bear Up and Bear Down for the Week 2 review, I want to remind you guys, MyBookie is being slammed with new bettors and wants to give everyone the best service possible. If you're willing to make a deposit after 7 p.m. Eastern Time, they will give you an additional $25 in free play on deposits over $100. Join now, and MyBookie will match your deposit dollar for dollar. Use the promo code. We got a new one this week, Bears25, to activate the offer. Visit MyBookie online today. That's MyBookie, MyBookie. And don't forget to use the promo code Bears25 when creating your account to claim up to $1,000 in free pay. So if you're willing to hold out until after dinner, 7 o'clock Eastern, you can get that extra $25 in free play by using the promo code Bears25. So there you go, guys. MyBookie. You play, you win, you get paid. And there we go. With our Bears Bear Up and Bear Down list for the week, it's I'm trying to think of guys that kind of stood out, and it was kind of a short list on both sides this week as far as who I thought deserved to be recognized this week. And I'm pretty sure you can imagine the names on the Bear Up side. First, we'll just go ahead and get him out of the way. Khalil Mack. Bear up to Khalil Mack. Only had the one sack, but as you heard me, gushing about him a few minutes ago, it's because of Khalil Mack. He didn't make the sacks, but he was responsible for a lot of them. That one from Eddie Goldman down there in the on the goal line, that was Mack closing down the pocket, forcing Russell Wilson to step up, and like I said, ran into the big hulking arms of Eddie Goldman to get that sack there. And, just the impact that this guy is having, the strip sack that he had before, unfortunately didn't become a turnover for us, but nonetheless, that was the sack that Khalil Mack was credited with. And just the play that he made on that sack was kind of insane, because he was actually, the offensive tackle, Ifedi, was doing a great job on Mack that time. And it was just Mack with the strength and just overall effort that he just reaches out just as Wilson's about to try to throw the football and hooks the football, pulls it out of his hand, and now everybody's scrambling to get the loose ball. An amazing performance from Khalil Mack, and more of a 60-minute performance that we didn't get to see last week against Green Bay. And I was reading an article about, as awesome as the Bears defense has been in the first two games, they're just scratching the surface on what they're capable of, because Khalil Mack is an endless motor kind of guy. And unfortunately, that motor didn't start revving until the Green Bay game, basically. I mean, he may have been, working out to keep his cardio up and everything, but he missed all of training camp, didn't play in any preseason games, so he's not what you would call in football shape just yet. I mean, think about 3-4 weeks from now, when he's had all that time to practice, he's played in a handful of football games and what have you. When Khalil Mack gets his strength all the way back, imagine what a force he'll be as we get deeper and deeper into this season. And and the fact that Roquan Smith give him some more time to get out on the field and find his footing. He was pretty much everywhere last night. I saw him with his hand on a lot of tackles, last night. I don't know how many he was credited with, but he was in the area no matter what. He was around the ball, which is the reputation that he earned when he was at Georgia. He was always around where things were happening, and that's why he won the Butkus trophy as the best linebacker in the country when he was with the Bulldogs. So, but bear up to Khalil Mack, another outstanding performance from him. The second of many, knock on wood. Bear down to, I hate to do it, Mitch Trubisky. You know, statistically, it wasn't bad. Statistically, it was, I got the numbers right here. It was like 25 of 34, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, and, of course, the 2 interceptions. He was only sacked twice on Monday night, so he wasn't under fire too much, which I guess kind of makes it a little bit worse. And 25 of 34 is actually pretty good. However, those 9 incompletions kind of stand out almost more than any completion he did make last night. I mean, what else have you heard me talk about throughout the entire show? You hear me talk about what could have been a touchdown pass to Taylor Gabriel, a wide open and just a big wide open space with nobody in it. If he hits Gabriel in stride, I'm very confident that play could have ended up being a touchdown, if not set us up for one. The football that he launched over Jordan Howard's head, it would have been a first. It was like a 2nd and 5, so mostly an insignificant. That's the word I'm looking for. Insignificant play, but he launches the football over the head, and we're looking at 3rd and 5 instead of 1st and 10. The short play, the short pass on the interception, the one that almost got picked off where he tried to rope it into the corner of the end zone, only he had to get through about 2 or 3 defenders to get it to one of our guys. Just some bad decisions, some bad throws last night, and we're wanting to see progress. And you heard me talk about it before, and we'll throw Matt Nagy in there, bear down as well, because Jordan Howard had 35 yards rushing on only 14 carries last night, and it wasn't because the Seahawks defense was so awesome against the run. I was talking to my dad about this. It's, Jordan Howard is what you call a volume back. The more you keep feeding him the ball, the more dangerous he becomes, because he's not a speedster. He's a downhill, between the tackles kind of runner. Now, he's got the skills and the moves to make you miss and get those yards or anything, but he's not going to run from anybody. That's why he was a 5th-round back, because he doesn't have the breakaway type of speed. But Jordan Howard can hurt you. Jordan Howard can get those tough yards, and he can turn those small gains into big chunks. But you got to give him the ball if you're going to do that. And there were too many times last night when the Bears could have been trying to establish a rhythm with Jordan Howard, who is, despite not being part of the discussion, one of the better running backs in football, and we're not utilizing him. And that's on Matt Nagy. Or maybe it's on both Trubisky and Nagy, because we're doing those RPOs and we're choosing the P instead of the R in that scenario. Maybe we need to be running the football a little bit more, because that's what happened with the touchdown, the last touchdown drive. We did run the football a little bit more, and it was a play action play that set up the touchdown pass to Anthony Miller there at the beginning of the 4th quarter. We had the play fake going to the right side. Trubisky rolls to his left. Boom, Anthony Miller's wide open. Touchdown, Bears up 17-3 in what seemingly looked like an impossible task for the Seattle Seahawks offense with the way our defense was playing last night. That's what happens when you get Jordan Howard involved. The Seahawks will, or the defense, the defenders, know that they have to pay attention to Jordan Howard, because he ran for 1,100 yards against 8-man boxes all of last year. They know this guy is dangerous. They know this guy can hurt you. So they have to respect what he's doing, which is why we as Bear fans have been dying to see this offense play, because if you add a Robinson and a Gabriel, a Trey Burton, and Anthony Miller and all that kind of stuff to what we can already do with Tariq Cohen and Jordan Howard in the backfield, you got to watch out for that. So, that's just all there is to it. You have to, as a defense, you have to know where Jordan Howard is at all times, because he's dangerous with the ball in his hand, and Nagy and possibly also Trubisky didn't make that happen enough last night. It could have made things so much easier on themselves last night if they would have just keep feeding Howard the ball instead of always trying to force the ball down the field, with the pass. I mean, the way that they throw the football and in the volume in which they're doing it, you would think they have no confidence in the running game. And with Cohen and Howard in the backfield, we've been waiting all season to see what these guys are capable of in this offense, and we're not getting a chance to see it. As a matter of fact, Trubisky's seemingly favorite target throughout the entire preseason was Trey Burton. And aside from that one catch for the 3-yard touchdown on the shovel pass, we're not seeing a whole lot of Trey Burton up to this point. It's kind of disappointing, actually, because as the chemistry you saw between those two in the preseason, I know it was only preseason, but you were kind of hoping that it would carry over and that Burton would be Trubisky's favorite target and be that guy that he's always looking for on 2nd and 6 and things like that. And Burton's kind of been a ghost in these first couple of games. It's kind of been disappointing. Not enjoying what I'm seeing thus far from the offense, and hope that it improves as we go along. Granted, having the whole Jekyll and Hyde thing, hoping that on the Dr. Jekyll, I guess, on the Dr. Jekyll side, the sane side, we're being patient. We know that this is a growing process for the offense, but on the Mr. Hyde side of things, we want results and we want them now. You guys have the tools. We know that Trubisky is capable. We just got to see the results and see it happening out on the field. Make things easier for the defense that's making life easy for you by not putting a burden of having to score a heavy amount of points to win football games. So they've got your back. Now it's time for you to get theirs. A couple of bear ups instead. Actually, I'm going to go the last 3 bear ups I have. Bear up Prince Amukamara. The back-breaking interception for the pick 6 that put the game away for us last night. He's been the better of the 2 corners. Coming into the season, you would have thought it would be the other way, that Fuller was the better of the 2 between himself and Amukamara, and Amukamara has been the early leader in the clubhouse thus far, who's been playing a lot better than Fuller has up to this point. So bear up to Amukamara. Bear up Danny Trevathan, like I mentioned earlier, our leading sacker. The strip sack that pretty much killed any momentum the Seahawks were trying to generate there in the fourth quarter. The Bears did recover that one, and Trevathan with 2 sacks on the night last night. And then bear up to Vic Fangio. The scheme that he's putting together, and granted he's got a lot of good football players to do it with, but nonetheless, he's been making some pretty beautiful music out there thus far. The offense didn't really do him any favors last week against Green Bay, and his unit kind of petered out in the fourth quarter because it was tired. Tonight, or last night, I should say, not the case. The offense did its part as far as keeping the defense off the field, or keeping them off the field long enough to get their win back, and they were able to reward the offense by smashing the Seattle Seahawks into the ground as often as humanly possible. So bear up to Fangio. Called a great game last night. Saw him mixing in some more blitzes, seeing Bryce Callahan. Even saw a blitz out of Sherrick McManus last night. He's mixing it up and making things happen with the defense, and the Bears can be super aggressive with the talent that they have on the defensive side of the ball, and it's been fun to watch thus far. And then the final bear down actually doesn't have anything to do with anybody on the team. I just want to give a very special bear down to ESPN, because they decided that last night during this quote-unquote commercial-free halftime show that it was far more important to show this nobody band that nobody's ever heard of, or to play a pre-recorded performance from these nobodies. Like, I don't even know their names, and I don't care to know who it was, but they thought it was more important to show that nonsense than to show Brian Urlacher and his halftime acceptance of his Hall of Fame ring, being honored by the organization in front of his home crowd, in front of his home fans that he played in front of for 13 seasons. Urlacher, a first ballot Hall of Famer. They didn't show a second of that. I mean, they really didn't. They kind of showed I think maybe they showed some images of it as they were going to a commercial break or something like that, but they did not air that they didn't air the festivities at all. I mean, it's ridiculous. They didn't show any of the speech, Urlacher getting his ring or anything like that. It was instead they showed this nobody band that I've never even heard of, couldn't tell you what they were called or anything like that. And it was pre-recorded, so it's not like they were in the stadium performing for the 70,000 people or so that showed up for the game. No, they were there honoring Brian Urlacher instead while this crap was being played, this pre-recorded crap was being played instead of this wonderful moment that Bear fans that couldn't be at Soldier Field would have enjoyed seeing when one of our favorite players, one of my favorite players especially of all time, was being honored for his achievements and being named to the Hall of Fame in 2018. It's ridiculous that they didn't air it. Instead, I don't know who the band was. I never heard of them. When I saw who was going to be performing, I didn't realize it was going to be shown instead of. I thought it was going to be shown in addition to Urlacher getting his Hall of Fame ring and being honored by the fans and the team and so on and so forth. No, we got none of that. Instead, we got this garbage hipster, they look like homeless people recording or, performing this pre-recorded garbage instead of seeing Urlacher be honored by the Bears. So huge bear down, thumbs down, whatever for ESPN. That was awful, just flat out awful that they would elect to do that instead of showing Urlacher getting his ring. So that'll do it. We'll go ahead and end on that. Come back on Thursday, though, when Jess Root from CardsWire.com will join us to help preview the Week 3 matchup between the Bears and the Cardinals. We'll see how Jess feels about his offense or the lack thereof from this football team. Does he think that we'll be seeing Josh Rosen this week, whether he's starting, or do you think that, Steve Wilks, the new head coach of the Cardinals, will just tire of Sam Bradford and his lack of productivity and throw the rookie out there? What does he think will happen? Is he looking forward to this game on Sunday, considering how the Bears defense has played in the first 8 quarters of the season? We'll answer those questions and so much more. So come back on Thursday for the Week 3 preview. Until then, my name is Larry D, and this has been Bears Talk Underground.